Hello, and welcome to This Week in Government. We are going to talk about today mental health during the holiday season. Holiday season is a time of joy, but it is also, for many people, a time of stress and loneliness. Joining us today are the Minister of Health, the Honorable Kim Wilson, and in the second segment will be Dr. Anna Neilson Williams, Chief of Staff at the Bermuda Hospitals Board. She's also a consultant psychiatrist managing clients with a range of mental health conditions and working with patients at MWI. She will discuss the more clinical side, but we want to start with Minister Wilson. Thank you very much. And I know that this was an important topic for you to discuss. Why during this season did you want to talk about it?
Well, thank you for having me, Tina. Speaking about mental health and mental awareness is something that I'm very deeply passionate about. And in order to speak about it in particular at a time during the holiday season where many people are experiencing joy and festivities and cooking and getting their homes ready for the holiday and celebrating with family and friends, but also we have individuals in our community that are not so joyous. They may be suffering from grief or loneliness or a financial strain. And we want to just talk to them and talk to all individuals to recognize that in addition to us being our brother's keepers, we need to look out for those individuals that are in our community that may not necessarily be feeling the same types of joy that everyone else is feeling. And it's natural and it's normal. And we want to encourage people to know, A, you can raise your hand if you need someone to speak to, and B, we need to be there for each other and check in on each other to make sure that they are enjoying the holiday as best as possible. The government has initiated a number of initiatives to help to address that. We've done a number of social media public campaigns through television and the media to just draw public awareness to the fact that you don't have to suffer in silence. There are stresses that could come with the holidays, but it's important to just seek help. We've also offering counseling services through our community clinics, and we're supporting wellness programs and radio ads and social media, as I said previously, to just encourage everyone to check in on each other and also recognize that if you need some help and you need to speak to somebody, raise your hand. Government's also committed quite a substantial amount of money to creating more access to mental health services, so through grants to our partner agencies such as MASK, the Family Center, the Age Concern, and the Women's Resource Center, and the Bermuda College Foundation. Those are also services that are available to members of the community to provide access to mental health services if they need them at this time.
Yeah, well, and I remember talking with you some time ago, and we talked about the stigma in the community that has it improved? We're talking more about it. Go ahead.
Absolutely, and you're right. We still have, unfortunately, this whole stigma associated with mental health in Bermuda, and we're trying our best to try to get over that. And I think we're seeing quite a lot of improvements in that area because people are having it form part of their natural conversations. The Ministry of Health, through with the assistance of MWI and all of our partners, are having these lived experience workshops. We're having sessions where we're having persons within our community that are giving a voice to mental health and mental awareness who are speaking openly about their lived experiences. So we're seeing people communicate about it more because we know that once we speak about it more and have a better awareness, we will help to bring down the walls of that stigma that's preventing people from going to get help, because all we need to do is raise our hand.
Yeah. The access. Talk about the access. What government is doing to help them. You said some partner agency you're funding. Go ahead.
Yes.
Talk about just a little bit more.
Certainly. Last year in the pre-budget, we received over $2.29 million additional money from the Ministry of Health so that we could provide grants to some of our partners within the community that are providing counseling and mental health services. So those particular agencies will allow for access, so a person cannot be denied access because they can't afford it. So they can go to those agencies. Exactly.
So they can go to an agency and say, you said Women's Resource
Women's Resource Center, Age Concern, the Family Center, and MASK.
Right.
Yes.
And just say, I need some help.
Yeah, raise your hand.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What about families? I meet families, I'm sure you do too, that are grappling with, struggling with assisting and aiding their family member that may have some mental health challenges.
Right. And that's important because we have to recognize, especially, like I said, as we start trying to dismantle the wall of stigma, people will become more open to recognize that, making sure that you take care of your mental health is equally as important as taking care of your physical health. So that if a family is requiring some type of assistance for a loved one, the first thing they can do is be there and be present and to be non-judgmental about the circumstance that their loved one might be feeling and going through. So they can support them in that way. They can support with a listening ear. If that person requires any type of mental health assistance, they can support by taking them and accompanying them there. But I think as families, we have to recognize that if it starts with us, then we have to also address the issue of stigma. And it doesn't make sense whispering about Johnny over there in the corner as opposed to trying to embrace them and recognize that they may be struggling with a challenge and we're there to support.
Right. And that, I think it's so important that as families and younger people being identified with mental health issues as well. Is some of the awareness campaign for younger people?
Yes, actually, we started an anti-stigma campaign.
Okay.
And last May we launched it, and we've been doing a number of exercises through the ministry as well as with our community partners and MWI to help to promote the anti-stigma that is existing. And part of that also includes reaching out to young people. In fact, in October, we had a mental health workshop and several hundred youngsters attended.
Really?
Yes, and it was very, very successful.
Great.
And we're trying to encourage them to be champions and to encourage their friends to say, hey, if there's a challenge, if you're having a challenge, it's okay to speak about it. So we're trying to continue with that dialogue, not just for the older generation like us, but also for the youngsters so they can recognize it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah. You mentioned, about the financial burden, the financial stress. Just talk about that from in terms of this season.
Yes.
People put... Go ahead.
It is Christmas, so there is an enormous pressure, I think, because of the commercialization, unfortunately, for people to buy the perfect gift or set the perfect table or, have the Hallmark moment. And, Hallmark is a television show, right? It's not real. It's what you see on TV. And so I think there is that extra financial stress to just be have the perfect everything as it relates to Christmas. And some of us are suffering financially. And it is difficult because we recognize it's been overly commercialized. However, there's so many things that we can do during the festive season to show our love and appreciation to our family members and our friends that doesn't cost anything. Have a cup of tea, have a phone call, do a visit our loved ones that may be in the hospital. There's so many things that do not cost that have more impact from a memory perspective than they would be from going down to the store and spending money.
And that's true, I make it a point now to try to call loved ones, seniors that are at home. And if you can't go see them, a wonderful call or Christmas card. Do we do Christmas cards anymore?
Yeah. Can you buy a stamp?
But that is very right. You're right about, let's be very practical about this season. And let's be identified. Put your hand up. Exactly. I like that. I like that. Accessing quickly, they can access the resources quickly by going to these. How about Maui? Go ahead.
Yes, and obviously Maui does provide mental health services. They have a 24-hour hotline. I'll leave it to Dr. Neilson to give you more information about that. But that is absolutely a viable option for persons to utilize, is to use the MWI services.
Right. Minister, you've been championing the mental health and removing the stigma. I've interviewed you before. I'm glad to see that it's still part of, and it is something that the government has recognized and is working on. Any other initiatives that we can be looking forward to next year, possibly? You can't say.
I can, but do they have to be connected to this?
No, go ahead.
Well, I'm really, really thrilled to just announce real quickly that we are making major changes towards enhanced benefits for persons that are on Future Care and HIP.
Yes.
In fact, starting January 1st, all persons on Future Care and HIP will have a free annual physical with no copay. We've increased the amount for annual prescription drugs. So persons on HIP will go up to $3,000 per year, and for persons on Future Care, it'll be increased to $5,000.
Okay.
And the personal home care benefit, which heretofore you had to
Wait.
wait 12 months before you could take advantage of it, that waiting period has now been removed. You can enroll one day and get the benefit from the next day onward, and that's going to be a huge, huge benefit for
Yes.
individuals,
Yes.
especially persons that want to age in place, which we're trying to encourage people.
Right.
So persons on a chronic condition, as well as seniors who qualify, can receive that benefit. It will help to remove the bottleneck of persons in the hospital. They can come home, they can get a caregiver, and age gracefully and peacefully at home.
Yeah, I was delighted when you announced that in the House of Assembly. Because I have several friends that they had to wait 12 months before they could get that benefit to
Exactly.
assist with a loved one at
Exactly,
home, a parent
exactly.
and so forth
Right.
at home. So, go ahead,
Yeah,
Minister.
thank
Yeah,
you,
I'm
thank
pleased.
you,
I'm
thank
pleased with
you.
that.
Yeah, so
you
are
have
we.
my approval.
Thank you, thank you.
Well, I wanted to just wrap this up
Okay.
and thank you again for the mental health, reminding people those resources
Yes.
that are available. You can go ahead and do
There
it.
is the resources again through the MWI. They have a 24-hour hotline as well. There are resources that are available through the Age Concern, Women's Resource Center, MASK, and the Family Center.
Yeah. And one final message to people during the holiday on this whole concept of conversation about mental health.
I think, clearly I wish everyone a wonderful Merry Christmas, but recognizing that the importance of taking care of our mental health is equally as important as our physical health, and that we can reach out to loved ones and just be there and be present. That's the best present of all, is to be present.
I like that. I like that. We'll wrap it up right there.
Okay.
Thank you, Minister
Tina.
of Health, the Honorable Kim Wilson. We will be back to talk with Dr. Anna Neilson Williams regarding the clinical side of the mental health.
For some, the holidays bring grief or loneliness. Empty seats at the table remind us of loved ones lost or a family far away. But connection can ease the burden. Share stories, create new traditions, or simply reach out with a phone call or visit. A kind word, a thoughtful gesture, or time spent together can brighten someone's day. Let's be the community that uplifts one another this holiday season.
We'd like to thank the Minister of Health, the Honorable Kim Wilson, again for coming and sharing about the ministry's policies and also the resources that the ministry has made available for families and loved ones and individuals who may need some mental health assistance. Let's now turn to the clinical side of the conversation, what those challenges look like in everyday life and how individuals can cope. And we'll talk about the season as well. But we're delighted to have Dr. Neilson Williams, I did it right, great, from King Edward Memorial Hospital with us. And we're delighted that you could be here because you can really give us the cope. How do you cope during this season? And what are some of the challenges that you do see in mental health challenges this time of year?
Absolutely. So happy that we're here to be able to speak to this. And I think the minister articulated many of things that I would be keen on ensuring that people were aware of. But I think unlike the media image or the sort of very idealized image that we see portrayed on our screens or that we read about on our phones, the seasons, the holidays are quite different for people all around the world, but in Bermuda it can feel very, the microcosm, it can feel very magnified. And there's a lot of self-imposed pressure that we might put upon ourselves, and that in turn can just lead to us feeling quite stressed, because we may feel like we have to live up to expectations that might be self-imposed. We may be putting that ourselves based on all these images and things that we might see. I mean, we may enjoy watching the Christmas movies, but that does not mean that is actually reality. And I think just trying to get away from that, so a whole sense of perfectionism, and that's really just unattainable. And really what the holidays are for your family or yourself, that's what's important. It's not about putting yourself under great financial stress or burden to try to get the gifts for the children or people in your life that you may want to try to do, because January will come right around and those credit card bills will be right there.
Yeah, there you go. Yes.
So I think it's just important to try and set expectations and do some practical things, such as setting a budget and trying to stick to that as much as you can, or maybe even just kind of explain to the children where the limits might be. And I think if you ask children what they remember from childhood, it usually is not what the gift is. It's normally about, I don't know, we went for a walk on the railway trail, or we went down to the beach, or we went fishing, or something along those lines, where there's a more tangible memory that I think is instilled.
I think that's an important point to make with children. It's not always about the gifting, the gift giving. It is about the time spent and the memories made. How you say this about, especially about the financial, putting that financial pressure on ourselves. How does one recognize that? Some people exist and they don't even realize. What are some of the things that we can look at and say, okay, there's something is going on? What are some of the signs that families and individuals can look at for themselves?
I mean, I think if you're feeling like your internal compass or your dynamo is like in fifth gear all the time, or you're having a really hard time switching off, or it's impacting other things like your sleep, or things that should feel nice and happy. Like there's, I think most of us are busy. Most people, if you have a job, we're able to work in Bermuda, but many mothers, for example, I'll just use that as an example, are working mums, and there can be an awful lot happening with, if you have school age kids, like the end of term. There's so many things that should feel nice and happy, but unfortunately can often feel like, that's another thing for us to have to be dealing with, whether it's a school play or a costume or a present for the teacher or gift exchange, and that's just compounding on the home piece. And home might not be happy. Like there may be things that as a country we can often have an awful lot of pride. Again, the minister mentioned about stigma. People will ask you, how are you doing, how's your day going? And we're not always honest in that moment. Not that we maybe need to share everything, but we can maybe just open the door a little bit to say, actually, I'm having a hard time with this, or I'm not feeling as good today. And that's okay, because I think we have to be realistic that not every day is the same. And this time of year, we can be forced into situations where you might have to kind of go along to the family dinner, and there could be people there that could even be triggering from your past, or remind you of difficult situations from the past. Like I'm just saying, there's a lot of generational trauma that hasn't necessarily been well addressed, that still exists. Yeah,
I like when you said you've got to be honest with yourself and be honest with those who you trust. That you can say, I am struggling. What about loneliness? I think of the seniors. at this time that are alone and may not have as much family.
Yeah, I mean, it's a difficult time of year for, again, going back to this, what do we think the holidays should be? Again, much of that is from the whole media commercialization, the marketing of, what that time of year is. It's really around traditions or trying to keep the memories alive of the past, of the good memories. I mean, that's almost a type of therapy. It's something called reminiscence therapy, where, maybe you are with some other family members or friends and you want to talk about a loved one that may have passed. I think don't avoid it. You should bring that memory up, and then that's a way of remembering that person or that time, and doing that in a way that still brings that person back into the room in a sense. And when in Bermuda, there's many we've had whether it's terrible tragedies of people passing away at young ages in difficult circumstances, as well as people that may have lived a long life, but that's still sadness that they're not there anymore. And the holidays, whether it's Easter, Christmas, those are times where you're going to be thinking about those family members. And people sometimes can be quite busy, so they're not always paying attention to the people that are navigating through that. And then loneliness can affect people of all ages, and even people might be with a lot of people in the room, but they might actually still feel lonely because they might not feel like they're connecting with other people, or they may be dealing with some anxiety or some depression that they're not really sharing with people. So they may still feel like they're there, but they're not really involved with everything that's happening.
I do have to ask this question. What should a family member do, or a friend, if you're recognizing some of these, I don't want to call them symptoms, or some of these, what's the word? It's not symptoms, but you're recognizing in a friend or a loved one, stress, moodiness, or, it looks like depression, could be, what are the steps?
So great question. I mean, I think first of all, we're not expecting members of the community to suddenly become, clinicians or therapists. But I think we can all recognize there's times where, they don't seem quite themselves, or something's happening there. I mean, I think just asking the person and check again and saying, is everything okay? I've just noticed you weren't quite yourself as I know you to be, is something happening? And just slightly opening the door that it's okay to talk and share about how they might be feeling, or just, trying to have a conversation. It might be in a kind of neutral setting, like don't force someone to talk if they recognize that they're not in that space. We have, in tandem with government, been running quite a lot of mental health first aid courses. That is something that many individuals have actually gone through that journey. And again, it's not about making somebody a specialist in this area. It's really exactly as you said, what are the symptoms and signs of anxiety or depression, or some of the more significant conditions, and how might you be able to signpost people in that direction of receiving something.
Tell me a little bit, who would attend something like that, those type of sessions?
So it can be individuals. We've had lots of companies go through mental health first aid. Many of the government organizations have also done that, the police, for example, just so that they have a better sense of when they encounter somebody, or
or a colleague,
exactly, in the workplace, what do they do to manage that? Now, of course, I work at MWI, and we are a 24-hour service, so there is always somebody there that an individual can speak to. We do have a crisis line. The number is 239-1111, and that's if you're feeling, if there's something more significant, and where there could be self-harm thoughts or suicidal thinking, and you're able to, call and speak to somebody in quick succession, really to just try and get that in the moment support, and then the steps will be helped around what you can do thereafter.
Yeah, and that's good to know, the crisis, because some people don't even realize that you can call the crisis hotline. How about parents? We talked about young people, because mental health and young people has become very much a conversation, and being able to assist our young people with their mental health challenges. For parents, what do they do if they I know I'm putting a lot of questions at you, but even for parents, what would you say to parents if they see something or concerned?
Yeah, I mean, I think just it's important to try to always have dialogue with your children. They're going to go through their teenage times, and they're not always going to be willing to share, but I think just trying to pay attention to what's happening, because we can be so busy, especially with there's screens everywhere, there's electronics, that people can kind of dive into all of that space, but just try and bring people back to the present. And I think things can be meaningful that are just small, simple things. Again, we live in a place of great beauty, and nature can be very, very helpful. So I think going for a walk, going down to the beach, taking advantage of things that are around us that don't necessarily cost a lot of money, but just try and stay connected with your kids as much as you're able to. But just being kind to yourself, because the image of this idealized nuclear family, that is not necessarily the family that everybody has. And trying to navigate through parenting responsibilities, blended families, there's a whole myriad of things, and that's okay. Everybody's family is going to look different, and what is okay for yourself is just fine. And I think just knowing limits and boundaries, and it's okay to say no, because there might be lots of requests to do this or do that or make this, and I think knowing where your limits are is really important as well.
Yeah. I have adults, children, and they tell me about boundaries. I'm like,
okay,
yes, I'm learning that word about boundaries. And that it's okay to say no sometimes when you need. Be kind to yourself. What does that mean? What does that look like?
Well, I suppose that is just about the whole point of being gentle on yourself, and that self-care is important, because you can't give to others if you can't give to yourself. So again, that's going to look different for everybody. You know, you might find that you enjoy, like your faith is important, that can be helpful, or exercise. I mean, everybody should be doing some amount of exercise, but it can be a way just to kind of have that release, almost like a meditative space. There's loads of different ways we can find time just to try and even do 5-minute meditations. That might sound like, oh, there's no way I can do that. But actually, if you try it, it can be really quite helpful. Right. So just, you know, taking that time for yourself, go for a walk, read a book, sit somewhere quiet, have a cup of tea, those types of things. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Neilson Williams. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate that you've made it very, as you said, very practical. But I love ending it on be kind to yourself.
That's it.
Be gentle to yourself, especially in this holiday season and going into the new year.
Absolutely.
Going into the new year, 2026, being kind to yourself. Yeah, thank you. We will make sure that we put the telephone number for the crisis hotline up again, and we appreciate the work that you're doing as well. So thank you.
You're welcome.
We have had a great conversation with the Minister of Health and also with Dr. Neilson Williams. I want to thank you for joining us on This Week in Government, and we're wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, a happy holiday, and be kind to yourself this season and into the new year. I'm Tina Evans. Thank you for joining us.